I've loved swords and knights and medieval things since I was a child. I made armor out of cardboard and sticks and everything. And as I went on in life, as I got older and in college, I fenced at Murray State. They had a fencing club. And then after I got out of that, it kind of faded away and there wasn't anybody to fence with. But I began, still kept my love for swords, and I began reading and studying some of the Japanese sword arts. But I kind of came to a spot where it's like, I really want to know how they actually fought. And as I began to research that, on a forum I found some people talking about historic European martial arts, which is known as HEMA. And I began to search that out, and I found some people who were doing it about an hour away from where I lived and contacted them. And I went and trained with them. For about a year I was a member of that group, and during that time I met Alexander Brindley, who lived in the same town as me, and we found out we both had this interest as well, and so we began training together.
I've always been interested in martial arts ever since I was about 15 years old. I started Taekwondo and then I did Kung Fu, and typically when we hear the word martial art we think Asian, karate, Taekwondo, Kung Fu. But the cool thing is that I discovered when I was a late teenager that Europe has a very long tradition of martial arts. Heard about HEMA and it started picking up steam, and it's really grown a lot since then. I started a club when I was at Western, and then I lived in Europe for about 5 years. I studied with some groups there, so came back here and started this group, and thankfully met a lot of great people to help get it off the ground. So.
We eventually found another person in our community, Sam Orndorff, and the three of us began to train together, and it's just grown from there.
So I started about 15 years ago, doing this a long time ago. Just kind of a natural thing for me to get into. I've always been really into martial arts. I started karate at a very young age, and I was like, I really want to try swords. Wound up seeing a post on a forum where this guy's like, hey, I'm starting a new group for doing this type of sword, and I was like, okay, well, I'll go check it out. I wound up going and checking it out, and the instructor was really good. I had a great time. The instructor was Jake Norwood, and he's actually one of the higher ranked guys in HEMA now, so kind of cool, how it's all kind of come full circle, and I just got back into it recently. So
we're called Nashville HEMA. So HEMA is an acronym that stands for Historical European Martial Arts. We all kind of have a shared interest in what we're doing, but many people do it for many different reasons. One of my reasons is I love history, and I love martial arts and the sword and throughout history, and that's something that's always fascinated me. So to really learn how these weapons were used, which is very different from what we see in movies and popular culture. So it's pretty satisfying to me to learn how it was really done.
This stuff is really cool because you're playing with swords, you get to kind of channel it's got a little bit of a fantastical and romantic element to it, it's knightly arts, and chivalry, and got a lot of history associated with it. So it's just, this in particular is just a really unique thing to be doing in the martial arts world, A lot of that being able that any one of us that are students can come back to the sources and actually study what they wrote at the time. It's not my instructor says do this, so I'm going to do this. I can actually go to the guy that wrote it all down 400 years ago and be like, oh, there it is, and it's open for everyone to be able to do that.
So it's quite a broad field of study, actually, but I guess to summarize it, it's basically we're working from period sources of martial arts that existed in Europe from anywhere from the 13th century to the 19th century.
Primarily the school that we study is based on a German teacher named Johannes Lichtenauer, and he, in his writing, says that he traveled around the world and studied sword fighting in many different places, and he said that the art of the sword is one art, and that he didn't invent all this, but that he feels like he found what the true art was and put that together in his writings.
I like to think that the people that are attracted to this are at least in part attracted to it because it does have that historical context. We're not just out there doing sword tech. We're trying to actually channel these texts and do what they taught, and bring something to life that really hasn't been seen in several hundred years. We're very fortunate that we even have the sources to work from. and it'd be a shame for them to go unused, in my opinion.
I'm really hoping that this club will grow, because I think this is something that a lot of people could really get into and really enjoy.
I hope that we're able to get more people to come out and do this with us. We're growing all the time. We have 2 training locations in Kentucky and Nashville that we're training with now. Our group is getting bigger and bigger, and we're looking forward to carrying it into the future and seeing how awesome we can make it.